All right. Welcome to the stream, everyone. I am super excited to get into today's topic. So this is going to be a lot of fun. So those of you that are keeping track so far, this is now my fourth live stream in a row. It's still something I'm getting comfortable with. I'm really following, I guess it was a quote by Eleanor Roosevelt, and she said, do one thing that scares you every day. And so right now I'm definitely doing that and having fun with it. Obviously, this isn't like something huge. I'm just going live on social media. But I guess it's huge for me in the fact that I've never done this before, and it's challenging me to step outside my comfort zone. So with that, again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining. It's so excited to have you all here. So the topic that we're going to be talking about today is how to attract good luck. So this is a topic that it's fun, right? The idea of luck and having good fortune. So one thing I want to kind of start off with, just so we're on the same page of, is what is luck? So according to the dictionary, luck is success or failure apparently brought by chance rather than through one's own actions. And then I think the key word there is apparently. So luck is, that something that it's a perception in all honesty. But at the same time, I definitely feel that there are energies involved, and, because if you ever had it to where when things are going good and you get in like a good streak, and it's like one good thing after another just seems to happen and like you're on this wave, right? And then, have you ever also experienced the opposite, which I know I have? It's like where it's like, oh, all of a sudden one bad thing after another is happening, just like bam, bam, bam. I could think of one situation, and it's kind of just a silly one, is I remember I was visiting Toronto and I was supposed to be meeting up with a friend. But during this day, there's a parade going on. And when I went to go meet up with her, I was taking an Uber, and the Uber driver couldn't get me to where she was, where I wanted to be dropped off, because it was all blocked by the parade route. And so I ended up getting out, and then my challenge was figuring out how to get to the other side of the street to meet my friend. And obviously I could cross the parade, but the issue I had at hand was there were like barriers everywhere, and I didn't want to like hop the barrier. But thinking back now, I just kind of wish I would have just did it and just whatever. But at that time, the barrier was enough to block me. And then I just remember like that was happening. And then, like I said, just one thing was happening after another. Like my friend, like her cell phone was dying, and it was just like chaos everywhere. And it's like I could not. It was just one thing after another was like falling. And then I just remember how it all came to like a close. It's like I remember finally when I gave up, I like stopped somewhere to get something to eat. And then I got this sandwich, and then I was eating outside, and then as soon as like I took a bite, like everything that was in the sandwich just like fell all over my shirt. And I was just like, of course this would happen after everything that happened this day. But yeah, so that's like kind of an example of what happens, when you get on like this, like a bad luck streak or whatnot, like it's like bam, bam, bam. But then reverse of that, it can happen with good luck as well, where you want to ride the wave. So that's just, something to think about there. So one of the things I really want to talk about with luck is that it really tends to come down to a judgment and your mindset. I feel mindset and how you perceive things is a big part of whether something is, good or bad, because essentially we don't really know. And I actually have a really good story of something that actually just happened recently that kind of goes with that, where it's like you don't know whether something is going to be good or bad just by the situation. So it's like you don't want to be quick to judge is essentially what I'm getting at. So what happened yesterday is I was getting groceries delivered. And it was a very important delivery because in that order was toilet paper. And I was out of toilet paper and I needed that delivery. And so I was, the delivery was supposed to come in the morning. And then I, get a notification on my phone that, your order has been delivered, yada, yada, yada. So I go outside to go grab my bags where they normally are, because I always get groceries delivered and they're usually in the same spot. So I go out there and they're nowhere to be found. And then I go, I look at the neighbor's house and I look around. I'm like, okay, you say my groceries are delivered here, but I don't see any bags anywhere. So I end up calling Amazon, which is who I had ordered the delivery through. And I'm like, hey, the deliveries, not around here. I checked around with the neighbors. I don't see the bags anywhere. So, the customer service rep was really nice. She apologized, refunded my money, and even gave me an extra credit on my account for the inconvenience, So looking at that situation on first glance, I could have been upset, like, oh, this sucks, like I really needed that, like not what I'm supposed to do. So instead of, getting upset or angry or annoyed, I was just like, oh, all right, guess that means I have to go to the store now. Which is obviously during this time is something I try to avoid, but it's not the end of the world. So I, donned my mask as we do during these times and walked a few blocks up to a store that's nearby. And I got, the essential items I needed, checked out, walked home, and I was in a good mood the whole way. I had my headphones in, listened to music, sun was shining, all was well. And so as I'm walking back with my groceries, I happened to look over. And where I'm staying is it's like this long block of like condos. And so I'm walking back and I notice on this side, which is quite a bit of distance from where I'm at, I notice some Amazon grocery bags in front of a house or one of the condos that's in the block. And so I kind of had this thought, like, I wonder if those are mine. And like I said, it's at such a distance. Like, I don't know how the driver could make that big of a mistake, because even the address numbers are just very different. It's a big gap. But nevertheless, I walk over, and I was actually tentative about walking over because I didn't want to be perceived as like, a package thief or something. Like, it's like, no, I just want to check if these were mine. So I walk over and then I glance down at the bags, and sure enough, I see that they say, my name, Shane Warren, and, my address and everything. So I was just like, oh, darn it. So I grabbed the bags and walked back. And this was actually a couple hours later. So these have been sitting out. Luckily, there was nothing like frozen or anything like that in it. But yeah, so I ended up, calling Amazon, letting them know I found it. The rep told me, don't worry about it. So essentially, from this situation, I got a free, $40, and so that was what originally, started out as something that could have been upsetting and seen as bad luck. It was like my order didn't get delivered. I just stayed in positive, and then somehow I ended up finding my delivery and all was well, and I got to keep them anyways. So yeah, so that's that story. And so in that, I actually want to play a quick clip that kind of really illustrates this point of not knowing exactly or not judging too quick a situation. So let's go ahead and watch this. It's like 2 minutes.
Once upon a time, there was a Chinese farmer who lost a horse, ran away. And all the neighbors came round that evening and said, that's too bad. And he said, maybe. The next day, the horse came back and brought 7 wild horses with it. And all the neighbors came around and said, why, that's great, isn't it? And he said, maybe. The next day, his son was attempting to tame one of these horses and was riding it and was thrown and broke his leg. And all the neighbors came round in the evening and said, well, that's too bad, isn't it? And the farmer said, maybe. And the next day, the conscription officers came around looking for people for the army, and they rejected his son because he had a broken leg. And all the neighbors came round at the evening and said, "Isn't that wonderful?" And he said, "Maybe." The whole process of nature is an integrated process of immense complexity, and it is really impossible to tell whether anything that happens in it is good or bad, because you never know what will be the consequences of a misfortune, or you never know what will be the consequences of good fortune.
All right. Yeah. So I really like that piece by Alan Watts, telling of that old proverb there, and it really is just a good example of how life works. And if you realize, like, when life is just happening right around us and events are taking place, and we really, when you look at the grand scheme of things, we really don't know. We don't know what's going to happen next, or, obviously 2020 is a big example of that. But then in that, it's also about, not having that attachment and that judgment of a situation, of whether it's good fortune or bad fortune. Is this good or bad? But it's just being able to be at a place of allowing and just observing. And as you do that, one thing I've noticed just in my own life is when you really surrender to life and get into that flow of just allowing, and I feel like that's where the flows come in of things that let's say would be more so perceived as good. And just it, and life just becomes magical as you fall into that surrender. So, those of you that follow my Instagram stories know that one of the things is I find money everywhere. Like, it's just a thing that honestly I probably had since I was like a kid. Like, I remember always, like, I just find money, and it's not even like something I'm intentionally. It's not like I'm going out and just scanning money. It just happens just naturally to where I'll be walking, minding my own business, and I just will always just happen to kind of just glance over or glance down and like, oh, cool, there's some money. And some of it, sometimes it's in the most odd places. Like, I think of like one situation where I was just going for a walk, and there was like this hillside that I was walking by, and it wasn't like somewhere with a lot of traffic, so it wasn't like a path or sidewalk. But in this hillside, the sun just happened to shine just right till I happened to notice, like, just this shiny, little dime sitting there, just waiting for me to just grab it and go about my way. And usually when I find coins too, I have a practice of practicing gratitude and saying thank you. I usually say like a prayer and things like that, but it's just something fun. And so I would say that's one of the things definitely to help to attract more, good luck, is to be grateful for what you have and for what comes into your life, and practicing gratitude. I would say another fun story that I just happened recently, and actually, let me grab this. I kind of have this little jar I've been keeping here recently. If you see here, it's like filled with money. I've only been filling this for a few months. I've found a lot more money than this, but this is just a few months worth of coins and what have you. And then right here, we have a $20 bill. So this is a fun story here. I was like walking, and again, just glancing over, I was walking by this fence, and I just happened to glance over on the ground in the grass, and in the grass, like, this is where I was walking was like a high traffic area. Lots of people walk through this area. But yeah, I just happened to look and notice within the grass, blending in, that 20 was very blended. And I was like, stop, $20 bill? And I just stopped and looked. I was like, that is. But unfortunately, the way where it was, because it's like the sidewalk, and then there's like this hill, and then like there's a parking lot in a high school. So I couldn't reach it. Like, if I were to reach through the fence, like, because it was like a bar fence, I couldn't. It was too far to reach, like, through the fence. So my only solution that my brain at least could think of was like, oh, I'm going to have to like just go trespass onto the high school, which I wasn't really looking forward to because it was like I said, there was a football field, there's football practice going on, there's lots of people out there. I was just like, oh no, I don't want to like seem like this, I don't know, intruder. Crazy things that go through the mind. But as my mind's trying to figure out how to get this $20 bill, I and I feel like this is so like divine how things work out. So just as soon as I like turned to walk away, I noticed this woman walk over towards right where the $20 bill was. Like I said, there's a parking lot area, and so she was like walking to her car to like grab a bottle of water. So she's like standing outside her car drinking the water. So I was like, you know what? Forget, whatever. I'm just gonna see if she'll hand it to me. So I wave her down, and so she's kind of looking at me because I'm like this random stranger on the street, like waving at her, and then I just start pointing at the ground, and I'm not even saying much. I'm just kind of like, and then so she walks over, looking at me very tentatively, like curious what's going on here. And then she kind of finally gets what I'm saying, and like so she grabs the 20 and just hands it to me, and then I go about my way. But it's just so funny because just to look at her face was just like okay. But it was so cool how like divinely orchestrated that was, the fact that just as I was walking by, like she just happened to walk up to where I needed her to be when I at the right moment, and then I was able to get that and get the money and walk. So I don't know, that's just kind of a fun story. But that's definitely something I've noticed is just like one of the things with that is having how do I put it, like just expectations. That's a big one. With attracting good luck would be expecting the best. How your expectations and what you're expecting in life will color really what you see. So if you're expecting things to always go wrong for you, then that's also what you're going to focus on. Because we have in our brain what's called like the RES, the reticular RAS. Man, I probably should have looked this stuff up beforehand. But there's a part in our brain to where it can look for things that we like basically program or whatnot. So it's like the same part of your brain when, let's say, if you know someone with a particular car, and then you never heard of that car before, but then all of a sudden out of nowhere you're starting to see that car everywhere. It's like that part of the brain. So if you have in your brain programmed to look for good, then that's what you're going to see, and you're going to see the opportunities as well. Because I definitely believe like there's no such thing as really like lucky people or unlucky people. Like we're all born I don't want to say equal powers. That's a complicated one, but what it really is not necessarily like the good luck or bad luck. It's what you are expecting. What are your expectations? And are you taking those opportunities that come up? Because if you have an expectation or a belief that things always go wrong for you, then when those opportunities come up, you're not going to take them because you don't believe that that's going to work out for you, or you have a belief that you don't deserve. And this actually kind of goes with some other thing, like the last couple videos, that I shared, like with like the self-love. I think self-love is a big part if you want to be more lucky and have things flow better for you in life, is to have love for yourself. So you actually believe that you deserve the good things to come to you. So definitely. So that is a big one there. So having positive expectation, having gratitude is a big one, your attitude, and, believing that good things are going to come to you, taking the opportunities and doing more things. I mean, there's something to be said, right, about odds. If you don't put yourself out there, if you're not, out there doing things, then your odds of good things happening are going to be less, statistically speaking. So there's something to be said about creating opportunities for yourself, putting yourself out there. I think that plays a big part as well into the luck that you have in your life. And then also just listening to your intuition and trusting yourself. Like, that's a big one. Listen to your intuition. And that's a skill to learn, right? Because I think a lot of times I notice this with myself is I will, hear that voice, that hunch, that first thought of, do this or that. But then if if I don't like act on that voice right away or do that, then I will let the second voice come in, the critic or, whatever, and then kind of squash that original hint of inspiration. And then I don't act on, what it is. And then I'll end up finding out later, like, oh, if I would have acted on that, original idea, I could have had this, big whatever, or, things like that. So intuition is a big part of it, is learning, but it's like a muscle though. It's just learning to really listen to that voice. And I think a really good book for that is Mel Roberts, The 5-Second Rule, because that's a big thing. It's like, if you're not acting within that 5 seconds, you're gonna talk yourself out of it. You're gonna, sabotage yourself. And so there's definitely power in just listening to that first voice and just going for it, which can be scary, definitely. And that's something that I myself have been working on as well. I feel like a lot of times I don't, act because I don't trust myself. And again, that's going back again to the self-love that I had mentioned, is learning to, really love and trust yourself, and develop that skill. So that is a big one there. And just, having a positive attitude goes a long, long way in how things work out around you. So I highly, highly, recommend that you do those, implement those different things in your life to just keep a positive mental attitude. Shifting your energy is a big one. If you follow like the works of Abraham Hicks, they're all about keeping a list of like positive aspects. So I actually have a notebook filled of just all kind of positive things. So then that way, if I do feel myself feeling down or anything like that, I go through this book and this list, and I read these things, and I feel these different things to get myself back into a more positive energy and vibration. And so that's a fun practice as well. There's actually a lot of cool other things you could do with that list. I'll probably do a video with that in the future. There's some fun stuff that could be done with working with that energy of a positive energy and keeping that vibration up. And then I would say another one of the points I want to touch on would be having a resilient attitude is a big one. And this goes to what we started, right, this live with, is talking about how you perceive something, let's say that happened to you that you perceived as negative or bad. And if you have a resilient attitude, then you have this belief that everything will work out for me. Everything is going to work out in my favor in the long run, And so when you have a resilient attitude, these things don't take you down. And an affirmation that I really love that has helped me when, let's say, something happened that was really negative, or that I perceived as being negative, that felt, heavy or took a blow, whatnot on me, is it's by Louise Hay. One I used to have on a sticky note on my computer. I remember saying it in tears. So it's like, basically the affirmation is, out of this situation, only good will come. This is easily resolved for the highest good of all concerned. All is well, and I am safe. And you can see that's a long one. I haven't memorized because I used to repeat it that much. Like, I just remember that one. Like, everything about that affirmation just would help me, so that when I'm in the thick of it, it's the darkest of night, and I'm just like, I don't know if the light is ever coming. Like, everything is just happening. I would like repeat that, and then that would help to lift my spirit and to bring that hope and that positive expectation that, it's everything's gonna be all right, So those are just some of the things I wanted to touch on. It really does come down to your own energy, your mindset, your belief, and what you are expecting. And if you expect the best will come. And that may sound kind of hokey or whatnot, but I firmly believe that that's, I guess, the philosophy that I choose to live by. I find it to be a lot easier than the philosophy of everything is going to hell in a handbasket, or Murphy's Law, right? The whole everything that can go wrong will go wrong. That's a horrible philosophy to live by. So I'm all about, keeping the vibe up, staying positive, and just know that it'll all work out in the end. So that's what I have for you guys today. Thank you so much. Let's see who we got here. Do some shout outs. Thank you, thank you, thank you. See all these hearts. Screen's going so fast. Thank you, everyone. Let me see. I apologize. My screen is like messing up right now, but I do see that there are so many here. So thank you, everyone, for joining me. I appreciate the love. I appreciate everyone joining me on these lives. As I guess I'm pretty much saying the same spiel I've been doing every day. That this is something that I'm like challenging myself. So I am here doing this and showing up and just connecting with everyone. And so I appreciate the love that everyone is showing and the support. And yeah, I am going to go ahead and sign off with that. So again, thank you. I love you. And I will see you guys tomorrow. All right. Bye.